Hey guys, Dr. O here. This is a video to help us go over the case review. Some people call it a doctor's report or a report of findings. I don't know what we want to call it, but I think the best thing to call it is a case review because we could actually say that to the patient and they'll kind of know what it is. When you say doctor's report to a patient or report of findings, I'm not so sure they know what we're talking about. But if we say, hey, we're going to come to a case review, they're like, what is that? Well, that's where the doctor's going to review your case. So I think they'll kind of get it. But if you guys want to change that, that's fine. I don't think it matters that much. But I like to call it a case review because I think that should make everybody happy. Okay? So before we start, just remember, subluxations really suck. And you also have to remember that they don't feel about their x-rays like we feel about their x-rays. So that's part of the purpose here, is so when they see their x-rays, they feel like I feel about them, okay? And a couple other things I wanted to have happen in the group report of findings or the doctor's report or the case review, sorry, I didn't know which hand to use. So the case review is that I want them to understand their condition, like what's going on, like what living in a subluxated state means. So that's a lot of facts and things like that. Then I also want them to understand, or want them to say or feel the feeling that I don't want to be like this anymore. That's the emotional driver. That's what actually gets people to take the first step into action and to commit to getting better. And what people are really committing to, they're really committing to hope, because we haven't done anything to them yet. So we're just giving them hope. They're committing to that hope, and they're hoping that they get better. That's kind of the purpose of the case review. And then the daily visits in between the next progressive reassessment will help build the hope and give them other foundational things to build upon. Okay, so we want to start with a case review. Engagement is the name of the game when you're doing one of these, because sometimes it can get boring. So you constantly want to engage people. And I'm also an objection seeker, and I encourage you guys, or anybody really, to be an objection seeker. It's hard for me to say that. Most people generally steer away from objections. They kind of go around the easy way, but you want to go boom, you want to go head on the objection. You want to clear that limiting belief that they have, so then you can build them up into a positive state, or the thought process that you want to have them. But you can't dance around the objections. Another way to look at it is, whatever the purple elephant is in the room, talk about it. That way it'll go away. So you have to talk about that first. Engagement. Pick at them, objections. Okay? So let's go through these slides. I'm not married to these slides. I just made them. I'm not actually used to using a PowerPoint, so it's kind of cool. But so I'm not married to the slides. There's only a few things through here that I think are super important that I wouldn't change. And there's some other stuff that we can talk about and change as we go through. So I try to make this not as my voice coming out. I tried to make this as like the collective voice coming out. So some of the stuff, it's pretty awesome. We'll see. We'll just go through it. So we got the case review. It's the first slide. Okay. So remember, engagement. But very first question, we start with engagement. You just generally just say, hey, I'm going to start with a question. You just say whatever's on the slide. We're going to start with a question. What do you believe to be more true? Do you believe they're put on the earth to live a long, healthy life, or you think we're put on the earth to be sick and suffer and have our parts ripped out and have to have prescription drugs put in just to make it through to the end of our days? Which one you guys believe to be true? One or two. And then just stare at them and make them think about that. And say something. And if they don't pick, I've never had anybody say number two. I've asked that question to like thousands and thousands of people. That's how I start every talk, just about. No one's ever said the second one. But actually make them say number one. That's the goal. You want them to think, because that's the vitalistic way. So you want them to see the difference between vitalism and then whatever the other one is, okay? There you go. Then you just go into, we agree. We believe that your body is self-developing, self-maintaining, and self-healing. We call that vitalism. So what I do on this slide I actually walk over to the TV and point to the sentence when I'm talking, which is a communication technique I got from Andy Stanley. So that's kind of fun. But anyway, so I'll go over there and then I go, what does self-developing mean to you? There's a group there. So then you make them say stuff, you engage them, because you have to engage them. So they see that sentence, they're like, oh, that's an amazing sentence, but then you have to get them to think about it. So what does self-developing mean to you? So then engage them, and talk to them about whatever they say back and forth until you feel good about that. And then move on to self-maintaining. What does self-maintaining mean to you? You get them to give examples and things like that. And if they have trouble with it, give them a couple. But you definitely want to pull it out of them if they're struggling with it. And then self-healing. What does that mean to you? And then get them to say something like that. Okay. Oops, wrong button. There you go. Then I usually go into, well, let's talk about how your design, how chiropractic actually works with that design. This picture on the slide I kind of hate, but it's there. I generally ask people, what is your most important organs? If it stops, you die. That's like a loaded question. Almost everybody says heart. And then I'm always like, yeah, if your heart stops, you die. But then I'm like, what's the most important organ you have? And they're like, oh, it's your heart. Then I'm like, well, what happens if your lungs stop? And then sometimes people say you die. Or some people say you'll suffocate or you can't breathe. And I'm always like, and then you will. And they end up saying, inevitably say die. They pick some more organs. What happens if your pancreas were to spontaneously stop? What would happen to me right now? I would die. What happens if my kidneys both stop at the same time? What happens? Die. Eventually, they get the idea that if any major organ stops, that you die. Okay, and then you ask them some kind of way, whatever organs you just said, what makes your heart beat, what makes your lungs breathe, what makes your kidneys do whatever that they do. And then you just stare at them. Somebody will say brain. Somebody will get it out. And you're like, yeah, you guys knew that. It's your job of your brain and your spinal cord, your nerves, and all that stuff to keep all your rest of your body healthy. And they're like, oh, yeah, I knew that. It tells everything what to do. Okay, but if they don't know that, you have to explain it. And then here's a perfect opportunity to explain it. Here's a chart here where you can show them their brain, how it turns into their spinal cord, how it turns into the nerves, goes to all the body parts, okay? You can go in ADIO, which is awesome, above, down, inside, out. You can go in ADIO, explain how that works, okay? General chiropractic stuff there. And then this is super important. This is one of the parts I think is the one you have to get this agreement. There's a couple of agreements that you have to have, particularly in chiropractic, to move on if you're trying to explain it. And then if someone has some objections when you're in the individual part or in the daily visit, you can always go back to these agreements to see if they remember that they agree with them or not. I usually walk over to the screen, kind of like Andy Stanley does, if you've ever seen him do it, and point to the sentence. Do you agree that it's a job of your brain, your spinal cord, your nerves, to keep your body, what does it say? To run your body and keep your body. To run your body and keep you healthy. You just described that there, so they should agree with that, okay? That's hard to not agree with. Make them say yes. If somebody does not agree with that, or if they don't say yes, or if they look confused, you have to go back to here. There's no point in moving on if they don't understand that basic agreement there, okay? Okay. So then once you get that agreement that that's the job of it, you can go into how important is your brain, and then see what they say. People say kind of crazy stuff. They usually say pretty important. So then, yeah, it's so important. Then what covers it to protect it and keep it safe? When people say your skull, yeah, it's your skull right here. It's the job of your skull. It's totally, you usually go into an example, like it's totally enclosed by hard bone. It's like a helmet. You can't get to it. You could ask them when was the last time they poked on some brain that could actually feel it. I guess like a laugh, like 9 out of 10 times somebody will giggle at that one, okay? So throw that one in there if you want to. But it also gets the point across that your brain's super important, so that's why it's super protected. And they understand your skull goes around your brain, protects it. People get that, but you have to bring that up to their level of thinking so that they realize that they actually know that. And then I usually ask them then in an analogous way, the same thing, what covers your spinal cord and keeps it safe? That one people do not know like they know the head and brain, which is weird. So then you can point to the picture right there and you can kind of show it to them. The brain, spinal cord, backbones, and nerves that come out, that it's the job of your backbones to protect the stuff inside, which is your nervous system. And I usually say the stuff inside a lot. That way they can kind of get that. The nervous system is the stuff inside of your backbones, which is what we actually care about, which is why we care about the backbones. I usually walk over to the screen, boom. And then this is the second agreement, or maybe the first question is agreement, but this is the definitely main agreement. Do you agree that there's a close relationship between your backbones and your nervous system, or your nerves, or whatever you want to say? They have to agree that there's a close relationship. Most people do not understand that. So you definitely have to get them in agreement that it's a job of your nervous system to keep you healthy and coordinate and tell all your stuff what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And you also have to get them into agreement that it's their job, that if there's a close relationship between the bones and between the nerves. Okay? That's kind of the basics of what we do, right? All right. So then I usually just say, well, not knowing anything else. If you, sometimes I have the spine out, make it all crooked. But if you put stress on your nervous system, are you getting healthier or sicker? This is actually the third agreement that I like to go over, but I don't make them agree to it. I just make them say it. And almost everybody says sicker, right? So you get them to agree that the job of your nervous system is to keep you healthy. Your backbones and nervous system have a close relationship. If you put stress, I like the word stress, but I put otherwise stress, pinch, interfere, pressure, whatever word that you like to say, or you can say all of them, whatever, that it will make you sicker than you currently are, or not as healthy, whichever word. I don't want to get into a semantics, philosophical battle, but it's the general idea that you want the people to know, okay? And then you can some sort of transition that most people want to know when these spinal misalignments that stress your nerves, we either call it subluxation, but when did you get them? That's when I usually go into the birth process, every fall you've had since you're 2 years old, learn to walk, all the accidents you've had, all the not so smart stuff that you've done, all the crazy job that you had, everything adding up together, boom, equals that. You go into where, when, and how of how you get subluxation. That is pretty easy to do, standard chiro stuff, but it's needed to know. About this point, people get the basic idea that their nervous system, what it does, the bones are closely related to it. If there's stress on it, it makes me not as healthy as I would like to be. So the next logical question is, how do I get that? Or do I have that? Or when did I get it? Or how do you get it? Or where is it? Stuff like that, okay? And this is also where I introduced the word subluxation. It's right there too. Cool. I put this picture up for a couple of reasons. Talk about subluxation again in case you happen to forget to say the word right there, so you can teach it to them. You can teach it to them again. A spinal misalignment that stresses your nerves. I'm sure there's lots of definitions for it, but that's a pretty easy one to understand. Get the basic point across, okay? And then you can show them how your brain and spinal cord are not two separate things with that cool picture right there. You can see how it's all a continuous unit. You can also see the backbones there, and I usually go point to them. What happens if one of these backbones was shifted backwards, or what if the joint was swollen, or what if the disc was puffy, or what if whatever. What if something that's not supposed to be there is there, and you get them to say something about it. Usually, like, it'll make it hurt or make it numb. That's the first thing that pops in their head. Then you can go into the organ systems that it goes to, things like that. You can go into overall quality of life. You can go into activities they've living. I mean, don't say quality of life in EDLs, but you can go into examples of like that. You want to gauge and pull from everybody everybody that's in the audience. The whole point is talking. You want to be talking to people, asking questions. The more questions you ask, the better. Okay. Something I learned a long time ago. The best type of persuasion is self-persuasion. So like if you get up there and you're like pushing your agenda, people don't generally trust you. But if you're up there asking questions, they'll persuade themselves. You don't have to push too hard. You don't have to be a salesman. Okay. Cool. So then you've been talking about subluxations and stuff. So then, like, how do you know if you have subluxations? Because that's a general question. We got, like, well, where do you get them? How do you get them? All that kind of stuff. Where are they? All those things. And you go into the technical word that we make them learn, subluxation. And then the next question I would have is, like, well, how do you know if I have that thing that you say that I have that's so bad? I think that's correct. Yeah. All right. So how do you know? So then you go into the ways that we measure it. Can you move? Does it hurt? Range of motion, tight muscles, inflammation, the structures, the histopathology, nerves functioning, are you crooked? The X-ray pathology one. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head right now. But that one, so you just go into it. We measure those things. We're not guessing. We're not just saying that you have it. We check for these things, and if you have these things, you probably have a subluxation. And if you have a subluxation, we can help you. So if you have this, you have a subluxation, and we can help you. Okay. So the whole thing is we're checking this to see if you have that. If you have that, we can help you and change your life. Okay. Cool. Then this goes into each one. The kinesiopathology one, big movements versus small movements. The general range of motion versus the individual joint range of motion. There you go. This is the tight muscle one. Boom. There you go. Like go into that, get them to open up their packet, and you can talk about what this means. And not each individual person's that's there, but go over the colors, have them look at theirs while you explain what spasmy muscles and all that stuff means. You can describe the percentages if you want to, whatever you want to. Just make them understand what it is. So in the individual report of findings or individual case review, whatever we end up calling it, we don't have to spend so much time talking about this. We can just say, yeah, boom, you've already seen it. You have this going on, you have this, you have this, you have this. Let's see how it's affected your x-rays and how that's affecting the stuff inside and how we can help you. So you boom, explain that, have them take it out and look at it. It's a one piece of paper. It's on the top right square. This is the swelling around the joint from poking on people. We do that, right? The physical poking we do. And you can also use the thermal. You can go into the thermal. It checks for inflammation around the joint. Also, it checks for the differences in the arterial and venous or vein beds or whatever. But that's a little. I don't think patients need to know about that. I don't think so. But if you want to talk about it, that's cool. I just talk about inflammation there. It's a little something that they can understand. Are your nerves functioning like they should? Have them look at that and just go think about it. Are they? This part's cool. This is kind of a freestyle part. So then we talk about, are you crooked? So then I have a spine a lot when I'm doing this. So I have a spine, boom. So we're going to talk about what you should look like. So then you just show them that they should be straight from the front, crooked from the side, hips should be level, things like that. Show them with a spine. Actually, this is the part where you can kind of go rogue. So teach them X-ray, teach them normal structure, okay? But make sure you focus on what the stuff inside, what's happening to it, and what it is keep reiterating that over and over. If there is stress on the structure, that it, by the very definition, stresses the stuff inside of it, okay? And show them how you get the how, when, and where stuff happens. Show them, what do we call it, phases. So the first phase for the ligament stuff, for the crooked spots, phase 1. Phase 2 would be the disc damaging part. When that goes down, make sure you talk about that. Phase 3 is with the hard structure changes, where the bones get bone spurs and start trying to fuse and stuff like that. So phase 1, 2, and 3. I guess you talk about phase 4 too, where it's totally fused. So talk about the 4 phases and what that means. That's arthritic, but just talk about how long has there been subluxation there? What has that done to the stuff inside? What has that done to you? So just make sure you talk about that. Okay, this part's fun. This part, you have a spine. You're showing people structure. You're showing people function. You're showing them, talking about the stuff inside. And this is where you can kind of show some normal x-rays here. Boom, that's a pretty close to normal one. But then I always point out that it's not straight. Phase 1, ligaments are being damaged, stuff like that, stressing that area. Talk about where they might have pain. Talk about some organ systems that could be affected, however you want to go into it, okay? And then we got the normal curve from the side, like a banana or an arch or a C, whatever you like to talk about. And I have the picture, we have a picture of a MRI right beside it, so they can see that their brain, spinal cord is in there. Then you can just teach with the spine in your hand, teach with that, teach what happens when the normal curvature gets off and how important that is. And then go, boom, what's wrong with that guy? And they'll say something, right? You get them to talk to them about that and what's wrong, what could be happening. You got the ANS chart there, so you can just teach away. Teach, engage. Remember, subluxations suck. That right there, you can't go wrong, okay? There you go. Let's go about the curve. Boom. So this is where you can describe what happened with the first picture. It's got some disc damage. What happened with the second picture? It's got some disc damage and some bone spurring. And then you can teach with the MRI right beside it and the spine in your hand. Teach all that stuff. We could do more x-rays, but I found I had to take some out because it was getting too long. Oh, sorry. There we go. So this part's cool. This part's new. And I think I've done it twice. Twice. And it's been awesome. So this is where, for me, I have to have serious blockers in there because I start joking around and, getting people engaged. And a lot of times it gets kind of fun, which is awesome. But then this slide is my reminder to bring the tone down because it's serious. If they're living in a subluxated state, it decreases their ability to express their uniqueness, and that's a devastation to the world. And we want to help. We're trying to reduce that. We're trying to allow their sole purpose to shine. And I have to remember that sometimes. And this is the slide right here. So after teaching them the structure and the function and what happens, if it's not how it's supposed to be over time, I get, stop, bring it down, and then ask them, if you're living like this, how is that affecting you now? It says me on the slide. It's because I want them to think me, but I want you to say you. How's it affecting you now? Are you building health or are you building sickness as we speak? You have to be building one of the two. How's that going to affect you in the future, whichever route you're on? How's that going to affect you a year from now, 6 months from now, or whatever, 10 years from now? Get them to start thinking about it, slow down, and actually let them think and pause. And then this is the coolest part. The 20 and 30-year health goals. There's actually a sheet in that packet that they have. Some of it is blue and white. Melissa made it. It's awesome. It's got the very first box actually has a place for them to write their health goals. I've done this twice, and when I first asked people to write their health goals, no one did it. They didn't want to do it, and then I just started picking and pulling and saying different examples of health goals, and every time I did it, boom, I see lights come on when they start writing it down. It's really cool. I've even seen couples talk about it to each other and then start writing it down. It's really fun. It's really cool. But it's really important because the thought is we want to help them become the person that can do the stuff that they want to do 20 years from now, right? That's what everybody really wants. That's the goal. They got neck pain and back pain or whatever, but that's not what we do. We're trying to have them express their uniqueness over the course of their life. But a lot of times people don't know the target. So how can we know the target if they don't know the target? We're going to be going different directions as we're trying to go through the daily visits. And that's basically impossible if we're not going the same way. So then I just tell them, I want to help you become the person that can do the things that you want to do. But how can we get there if we don't know the target? Things like that. And just give them the pool, give examples. Do you want to run a marathon when you're 80? Do you want to work out? Do you want to play with your kid? Do you want to go, are you growing? Are you aging to go on a cruise ship? Or are you aging to go into a retirement home? Which way are you going? You know what I mean? So get them started. You have to get them to write this down. You have to be bold on this one, okay? You have to it's really cool that we take this information and we can put it into our systems, and then throughout the daily visits, we can talk about their 20-year and 30-year health goals, how to become that over time, as opposed to talking about their sickness or neck pain, back pain, their asthma, their stomach problems. All that stuff's important to them initially, but eventually we got to move on to bigger things so they can see that they're unique and they're special, and we can help them do that, okay? This part's really, really, really cool. I can't emphasize this enough. This part has been fantastic. And this is a part where you can put your own story, change the slide or whatever. I have a story how I got into chiropractic. I got started with asthma. I had super, super, super bad asthma and allergies, and it totally devastated my life. But I knew for some reason that I was not supposed to have that, because that's just not right. How can I have asthma, and then the dude beside me breathed in the same air and be totally cool? You know what I mean? I knew that something was off. I knew that we weren't that different on the inside, or different at all, actually. So I had a clear health goal. Every time I spoke to somebody that knew anything about health, I asked them if they could help me, and of course, no one could. I met a chiropractor. He said, "Yeah, I would like to see you." And, he gave me hope, or what, I can't remember exactly what he said. He said, "Yeah, come to the office, we'll check you out." And then he gave me the chiropractic story, and then I had the same story that most chiropractors have. I went, totally changed my life. I haven't had asthma since. So I tell the story, anyways, the longer version of it, a little bit more emotion while they're writing it. Sometimes if I do a good job telling the story, they'll be looking at me, and I say, no, keep writing, thinking about your health targets, your health goals. What I'm saying is not crucial. I just get just so they keep writing or whatever. But then I talk about how I had that health goal, that I was going to be able to breathe better, and so I knew where I was going. And if I didn't have that target, I don't know if I would have ever hit it. So that's why it's important. So that's another good. You have a story or something right there to get people going. And then, that's the last slide right there. Think about all the future you. This is basically the same stuff you could be saying while they're thinking about their 20 and 30-year health goals, okay? All right, so that's the slides that I got. I've done this particular one twice, and it's been 33 minutes and 35 minutes, the two times that I did it. So I'm not opposed to changing anything. I think the agreements are key, those agreement statements. And I think the health goals are key. Besides that, it's all just regular chiropractic stuff. But you have to remember, the goal of this isn't to convert them to become a chiropractor or totally change the way they think and how they do every health decision in one talk. Because first of all, you can't do that. And second of all, if you did try to do that, it would take like an hour and a half, and that's just not realistic. This is 30 minutes to get people to realize their condition, Realize that subluxations suck. Realize that it's decreasing your uniqueness, and make them think I don't want to live this way anymore, so they can take action. And I look at it, as soon as they take action, they're committing to hope, and then it's our job to deliver on that hope, and then we can steer them through with the daily visits and progressive re-exams and things like that. Okay, so that's about all I got. Let's see. So throughout here, when I was doing this, there's like 6 questions that like every patient asks that they want to know, and hopefully this gets to most of them. First question is, can I trust you? That one you can't say, yeah, you can trust me. You know what I mean? Like that one you have to build throughout the whole talk, okay? Second thing that they question every patient has, this is an order of importance. So number 1 is, can I trust you? Number 2 is, do you care or have my best interest in mind? The number one reason to get a no on that one is to push your agenda. If you push your agenda instead of what they need and want, then obviously you don't have their best interest in mind. So just keep that right there, okay? Number 3, will it give me what I want? And what does that mean to me? So that's where the 20 and 30 health goals come in play right there. So they can become the person that they want. How will it affect, number 4, how will it affect the people in my life? That's really big on a financial. I'm paying whatever amount of money a month or for a year, for whatever, however much it costs. That's money I take away from my friends and family. But if you're talking about the person that they can become, the things they can do in the future, and if that involves their family members, that kind of takes that objection out. Okay, so you want to get that. That's an objection killer doing that. Okay, do I need it now? That's why that one, think about what's happening to you right now, is in there. Okay, so do I need it now? And can you prove it? That's number 6. So number 6 is facts. 1 through 5, all emotional drivers. So there's 6 things, there's 6 questions that people ask. The first 5 and the top 5 of importance are all emotional drivers. The 6th one is facts. So it's the least important. Facts are important, but not to people making a decision. You guys know that. Everybody knows you should eat right and exercise, but how many people actually do it? You know what I mean? It's a fact, but how many people do it? It takes some sort of emotional driver to kick that in gear if someone's living a sedentary lifestyle. So that's a good example. But you don't have to worry about facts because if you're doing a case review, facts are going to come out of your mouth no matter what, because they kind of have to. So you don't have to put that much emphasis and focus on that, and put the emphasis on the other 5 things. Because can I trust you? Do you have my best interest in mind? Will it give me what I want? How will it affect the people around me? And do I need it now? These are all objections or questions that we have to answer before we get into the individual report of findings. Okay, so I think that's all I got for you. Hopefully that helps out. It's just, yeah, man. I didn't do anything.